You know, modern cartoons just aren't what they used to be. And now that there was a time I could turn on Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, or Boomerang and enjoy just about anything because the goal of cartoons back then was to entertain you, not to teach you or to preach at you or to lecture or to force. But now it seems that no cartoon can exist without forcing some political talking point of the day or lecturing me about how I need to be better. And so, enter Steven Universe, a show that I despise with a passion for several reasons, but none of those reasons are what we're here to talk about today. So, see, it's not enough that Steven Universe exists as its own show, but now the characters are trying to step out of their realm to teach us about how racist we all are. I am so glad to have fictional characters lecture me about a topic they know nothing about. So, from Cartoon Network, let's hear what Pearl, the gem, has to say about being anti-racist. And before we get started, I'd like to preface this. Before anyone heads to the comment sections to tell me how I'm not qualified to talk about this because I'm white, I'd like to point out that Pearl is the whitest gem in the entire cast talking to us about this, so I feel totally fine doing this. All right, let's do it.
All right, class. Can anyone tell me who invented the light bulb?
Thomas Edison!
That's not entirely true.
Very correct, Pearl. Bravo. That is correct. There are actually several names involved in the making of the light bulb outside of Edison. In fact, the earliest light bulb made in history that we know of was back in 1806 when inventor Humphrey Davy showed off the first electric arc lamp using a battery based off of another man's design named Alessandro Volta. More attempts would be made until Edison came along and created a new filament in the bulb, which was longer lasting and more efficient. He would patent this new light bulb in October 1879. But what made Edison so special is that he never stopped trying to improve the bulb. He was never satisfied. He was constantly working within his company to try and better it. So it's not entirely true that Edison invented the light bulb, but it is true that he helped to pioneer what we have today. So, yeah. Okay, maybe I misjudged. Go ahead, Pearl. Tell us about Humphrey and Volta.
The light bulb could more rightfully be attributed to Lewis Latimer, the black inventor behind the filament inside the bulb.
His invention made light bulbs affordable and efficient enough for the general public, bringing electric light into households around the world.
Well, so now you know.
Lewis Latimer? No, Lewis Latimer helped in the innovation process. He was good at taking pre-existing things and improving on them. While it is true that he did help to innovate the light bulb in 1882, he was eventually hired to work with Edison and his company in 1884. Through Edison, he became well-versed in legalization of patents and would become a patent consultant to law firms in 1911. He didn't invent the filament of the light bulb, he improved it. But okay, even if he did invent the filament, he wasn't the inventor of the light bulb. You could more readily argue it was either Humphrey Davy or Alessandro Volta. Wait, why are you bringing up Lewis Latimer? But okay, continue.
Wait, is that it? Hold on. We're not going to mention why he invented the filament? To create a better standard of living for people who had only just been freed from slavery?
Slavery was abolished in 1865. And Lewis Latimer's first patent was as early as 1881. That's 15 years of difference. No one was just freed from slavery. Methinks you reach too much. But, okay, pretend you're right. What evidence or info do you have that this was his reason? Might have been to get his name in the market or to get noticed by Edison's company, but we don't know. Please share your source. I'd like to know why. I find this very interesting. You have this opportunity to teach us about Lewis Latimer, a very prominent and important inventor. Please tell us about him. Teach us about Lewis Latimer.
Are we going to ask why kids are apparently learning about Thomas Edison?
Thomas Edison!
Ugh, and not learning about Lewis Latimer?
Well, maybe because Thomas Edison was the man who ran the company? I mean, usually you remember people who run the company in question. But okay, no, fair point. We should learn more about other great inventors, sure. But don't get all hissy that we have to learn about Edison. Even if you don't like his business practices, you can't deny that Edison did have a profound impact on the world. But okay, let's address your question this way, a different way, Pearl. You might not know this as an alien, but do you know what teaching standards are? They are district-prescribed standards that we teachers are required to meet. These standards could include ensure students have an understanding of the industrial age, what led to its start, what major inventions were founded during this period, and why they are relevant on the world today. Even if we as the teacher don't like, agree with, or enjoy this topic, the standards are what we are asked to teach. So, if the standard says, teach about Thomas Edison and his contribution to the world, then sorry honey, your righteous indignation is wasted. Take it up with a school district.
These textbooks are incomplete. There were black Roman warriors, black medieval knights, black classical musicians, black cowboys, black fighter pilots. Where are they?
Wow, a lot to break down here. Firstly, again, like I said, why are we not talking about Lewis Latimer? I thought this was a now you know thing. Like, you're going to teach us about Lewis, but I guess we're done with that. Lewis is tossed aside, so sure, let's go down this list. Let's go through the list.
There were black Roman warriors.
Yeah, they probably existed in the Auxilla. We don't talk about them a whole lot because, well, can you name white Roman warriors we know in the Auxilla? Can you name any by name? The Romans pulled from various cultures and groups to form their Auxilla. Why should we specifically talk about the black Auxilla? You can't fit a whole history lesson around that. Particularly for younger children, Lark himself had to teach Roman history to 6th graders. In order to do that, he had to skim over a lot of the history he probably wanted to go into, because if you go too deep into Roman history, you will lose the younger students. They will get bored, or they will get distracted, or they won't understand it. Going into detail on the ethnic or racial makeup of the Auxilla would not only take too long and lose students, but it probably wouldn't be meeting the standards, and he's still got world history. Rome is only a part of world history. He's got to move along. We ain't got time to go into every little bitty detail, including ethnic diversity in the Auxilla. So that's probably why it's not there.
There's black medieval knights.
Wait, you mean this guy?
I'm invincible! You're a loony.
Nah, probably not. So, you gonna give me a citation for that one? You got some source for me? Maybe, some reference I could look at? Because I looked into this too, and the most I found was a reference to a Moorish knight on Arthur's Round Table. And, yeah, you know Arthur's Round Table isn't real, right? Yeah, I'm calling bull on that one, my friend. I have no evidence to suggest that there were any black knights. And even if they did exist, why do we need to specifically talk about these very few black knights when we're just talking about the era of knights in general?
It's black classical musicians.
You know what? If we were in a music class, we could learn about those black classical musicians, but this looks like a history class, and I know few history classes that cover classical music as part of the curriculum. Head down to the music classroom and ask that teacher what classical musicians they're talking about today.
Black cowboys.
Okay, so what makes a black cowboy so fundamentally special from a white cowboy? Why can't we just teach about cowboys in a general consensus? Why do we need to set aside time to point out, by the way, some of these cowboys were also black? Given the era in which cowboys were a thing, couldn't we draw that conclusion ourselves? Hell, some of those cowboys could have gone on to become sheriffs.
Oh, baby, you are so talented. And they are so dumb.
Black fighter pilots.
The Tuskegee Airmen are taught in schools. They are in our textbooks. I remember learning about them in middle school. You gain no points for that one, Pearl, because we are taught about them. So, yeah, you virtue signaled a little too hard there and overshot your boundaries, didn't you? Heck, I can do better than that. Where are the black soldiers, like the Harlem Hellfighters? The all-black squad from Harlem who fought in World War I, who were given their nickname for fighting so viciously that they never gave up ground. They were amazing. I'd love to teach about them, but unfortunately, we don't have much time to talk about individual units or peoples when talking about World War I.
Where are they?
You know what? Here's a better question, Pearl. You keep asking us to mention black people in America. What about the ones in Africa? Why aren't we learning about African history as well? I think that's a rich culture and history that is being greatly ignored. We should make learning African history a bigger priority in schools. But you're so busy whining about what we're not teaching about America, you're overlooking the obvious ignored cultures. Look, Lark and I have a friend from Zambia who is one of the coolest people we've ever known. I knew nothing about his country or people, and anytime he shared something with me, I was fascinated. I'd love to have known more of his culture and people in school. That is what history is about, not whining about who did or didn't invent a stupid light bulb.
I worry about you humans because you only live, about 100 years? You rely on these stories to know your own history.
Firstly, you read one textbook you didn't like. maybe you need to read a few more. Secondly, that's a great point you made there, but I don't think the way you meant it. You worry about us humans. We live about a century, far less than you do, so the question must be asked, why do you care? Aren't you just here to make sure we're not invaded by your own twisted empire? Isn't the only reason you give a crap about our fate is because your dead ex-girlfriend got it on with a human man and then had a kid, and now you project your love for your girlfriend upon that kid? I'm starting to think you may have bigger problems in your life than what humans put in their textbooks. I think you need to focus on your priorities here, sweetheart.
Thanks to systemic racism, most of your storytellers prioritize white accomplishments, which leaves you with an incomplete picture.
Okay, I'm going to address that. I will address that. But Pearl, honey, might I ask can I ask a simple question? Feel free to let this slide if it's a little uncomfortable. Okay, I wouldn't want to trigger you, but I feel I need to ask, who the hell are you to judge us? Isn't your whole race run by totalitarian leaders who genocide entire planets and peoples to further their own expansion, and you yourself served hand and foot for one of these leaders, whom you call diamonds, until this one person you served and loved said, nah, fam, that ain't for me, and then yeeted herself out of this dimension? I mean, go ahead, sure, talk down to us about white supremacy and racism. Sure, go ahead, while I laugh at your caste system. Don't you hold prejudice over certain gems based on what kind of gems they are? Yeah, but keep preaching from your high horse, honey. You know, maybe you're not the right person to give this talk. But, okay, sure. To your point, systemic racism. Okay. Name one law. I'll leave it at that. Name one international law that is in our system of laws and governing. Name one systemic law that says a person is superior to another or is given special privileges over another based only on skin color or race. Sure, yeah. Systemic racism. Coming from the alien from a totalitarian caste system. Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. Nothing at all ironic about that.
Ask yourself as you're learning history, who's telling the story? Was this modified to make white readers comfortable? Are major details being left out that would credit people of color and center their point of view?
You know, when analyzing a historical document, it's important to check for bias in the writing, and yes, some of those can be race-based. However, bias can take many forms outside of racial, and it's the job of historians to analyze for all of it. When looking at historical texts, you're often going to find bias towards the people of that culture. If you read Chinese historical texts, you can bet that they will likely favor their culture, for example. The Egyptians were famous for writing out or erasing pharaohs from history that they didn't like or did bad things. You know, it's not uncommon. But I do take issue with you ignoring the progress our culture has made over the last century. We've made great strides in equality and equal rights, but all of that is non-existent because, well, a textbook triggered you. But here's the funny part. You saying that these textbooks were written specifically to make white people feel comfortable, isn't that itself racist? If this textbook was written by a black author, would that be more acceptable? Or if you had a textbook that was designed to make another group comfortable besides white people, would that also be bad? The way you phrase this, you're basically saying that history should credit people of color, and when white people are credited, it should be scrutinized because it might be white people trying to feel more comfortable. That's not anti-racist. That is still racist.
Honestly, I should have asked for script approval before agreeing to do this.
We'll do some rewrites. I'm sorry. We didn't know.
Well, so now you know. I swear.
Okay, but did you tell the whole story? Did you? You could have taken this brief little blurb to talk about Lewis Latimer and his life. How he was more than just an inventor. He was the son of escaped slaves that fought in the Civil War by joining the Navy, and even lied about his age to get in. And after being honorably discharged, he learned how to draw mechanical blueprints at a patent office, where he learned patent law. Eventually, he went on to make several innovative developments, including the improvement of carbon filament in the light bulb. He would go on to work for Edison for a number of years, even joining the Edison pioneers. Further along with helping Edison, he was great in patent law. He actually helped Alexander Graham Bell patent the telephone. There is far more to this man than just, hey look, he got one over on Edison. And that's the true racism inherent in your video, Pearl, or Cartoon Network, I guess. you don't see Lewis Latimer or people of color in general like him for who they are or what they did. You look at them as tools to hold over white men. You only see Latimer as the man who might have outdone or did better than Edison could. And you want to use this small portion of his very exceptional life to not explore his experience, but just try to diss on modern day white people. You ask about why we don't learn about black people in certain areas of history, which is odd since you're not asking why we don't learn about Africa itself and its various cultures and people. Wouldn't that be the bigger priority? No, see, it's not, because it's not about learning history to you. It's about making the white man feel bad. Wasn't that your whole thing? That you're concerned that these textbooks that you're reading are only meant to make white people feel more comfortable? So your goal here is to make us feel less comfortable, essentially. If this was about history, you'd have taken the time to teach us about Lewis Latimer in just 2 minutes, or any other black inventor from the United States. If this is to be a series called Did You Know or Now You Know, you could have used this series to say, here's something you might not have known, and then taught us about a person in history. But instead of teaching us history, instead of giving us something new to know, you only ranted about the state of schooling and how it's systemically racist. And even that you did poorly. 2 minutes was all you needed to make a difference, and you failed. But, you know what? What can I expect from a fictional character whose own show failed to make a difference in 5 seasons? All right. I'm done with this one. And considering the topic and subject matter, I'm just going to go ahead and brace myself for the backlash that's coming. I'm going to go ahead and unchain Lark from the basement now because he quite literally went feral when I showed him this video. So that's all I got for you today, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one, assuming I'm not dead by the time this comes out. Take care.